daughter, don't cry. Wipe away your tears now. See your father off with a smile.
Dearest wife, the happy dream is over. Tomorrow, I will dive my plane into an enemy ship. When I think of your future, it tears at my heart.
For 2,600 years, our empire has never known a defeat. The key to success lies in a faith in victory.
This early color film, taken in July 1937, shows one of Japan's most sacred festivals, the Tenjin Matsuri. It is less than 70 years since the emperor was restored to power, and Japan began to transform itself from an isolated feudal state into Asia's greatest power. But lying beneath this rush to modernity is a deep-seated fear of Western domination. Tokyo, Japan's capital, is now one of the world's largest cities. It is the heart of an empire that already includes Taiwan and Korea. Journalist Shiro Iwata.
Today's Japan should not confine itself to its own small sphere, nor should it remain in its position in the Orient. Japan bears the burden of a global mission. It should advance to lead the entire world.
Japan is Asia's first industrialized nation. In 1937, Nissan unveils its first luxury car, the six-cylinder Datsun Model 70. There are plans to export them abroad for the first time to Australia. They have a new slogan: Datsun is the car, and the rising sun is the flag. With its newly found international status, Japan has also to face the world's problems. The recent global depression, begun by the Wall Street crash in the United States, has caused widespread poverty and a climate of political extremism. 22-year-old farmer's son, Tadashi Konuma.
How can we farmers survive? We have to borrow money from loan sharks who demand such high interest. Those who work so hard to grow the rice cannot afford to eat it. Japan is becoming an unworthy country in which to live. So, I was determined to devote myself to revolution.
Konuma joins an extremist group, the Blood Brothers, and in a Tokyo street shoots dead a government minister. Japan's courtship with parliamentary government begins to turn sour. A wave of political assassinations and attempted coup forced the Japanese into the arms of extreme militarists. Liberal politician Korakio Takahashi.
If you say anything bad about the army, then the military police rattle their swords or point a gun or threaten you. when a newspaper publisher in Kyushu wrote something bad about the army. They threatened him by having an airplane circle his factory and said they would bomb it.
As the militarists strengthen their grip on the reins of power, Takahashi is assassinated. March 1937. Emperor Hirohito's younger brother, Prince Chichibu, leaves Japan for Europe. One of his aides records the journey on color film. This is the first time it has been shown. The prince's first stop is London to represent the emperor at the coronation of King George VI. Allies in the First World War, Japan and Britain are now imperial rivals in the Far East. MP Winston Churchill.
I have often written about Germany rearming. Let us gaze for a moment at Japan. Here again is a nation imbued with dreams of war and conquest, where every voice of moderation is silenced by death.
The coronation celebrations include a Royal Naval Review at Spithead, off the coast at Portsmouth. The Imperial Japanese Navy is represented by the cruiser Ashigara. Lieutenant Commander Tota Ishimaru.
Unless either Japan stops the policy of expansion, or unless Britain abandons her policy of the preservation of the status quo, an Anglo-Japanese war is not the dream of a fool. Wake up, people of Britain. Times have changed. You cannot go on as you have done in the past.
Prince Chichibu continues his European tour with a holiday in Switzerland. Japan has recently signed an anti-Soviet pact with Nazi Germany. The government in Tokyo instructs the prince to break his holiday to meet Japan's newest ally. In September, Prince Chichibu arrives in Germany and is shown every honor by his Nazi hosts. He is invited to attend the annual Nuremberg rally and to meet the Nazi Führer himself. At a reception for the Japanese ambassador, Adolf Hitler.
The German people bring to the great Japanese nation its unbounded admiration. I am glad to be able to state that on the basis of a unity of spirit, the relations of our two nations have been marked by sincere friendship.
Japan now has its own fascist party, led by Seigo Nakano.
Hitler is a man of firm will and sincerity. Not a single word he utters is vulgar. He is a hero that rose from the defeated Germany. To achieve a new world order, Japan has to maintain the pact with Germany, who shares our frustrations.
Just as Germany craves control of Europe, Japan wants to dominate Asia. The question is, can this be done by peaceful means or by war? China, Japan's huge neighbor on mainland Asia. To protect their interests, the Japanese have had a military presence here since before the First World War. But now they want more. In 1931, Chinese troops had been attacked by radical elements of the Japanese army. They had seized the province of Manchuria against the wishes of the liberal government in Tokyo. Leader of the rebels, Colonel Kanji Ishiwara.
Let the government do what they will. The army is going to carry out this sacred mission to save China. The last war in human history is approaching. A titanic world conflict, which will be the gateway to a golden age of human culture. The only way for Asia is to advance together.
Right-wing militarists now dominate the government in Tokyo. In July 1937, an incident between Japanese and Chinese troops outside Peking leads to war. The High Command sends reinforcements to China. Thousands of men between the ages of 20 and 40 are called up to fight. The government promises the war will be won in a month. Tora Yoshida.
When I arrived, the brass band was playing, and people were shouting, "Banzai!" I told my daughter, "Don't cry. Wipe away your tears now. See your father off with a smile." I knew that if I showed my tears, it would only give more pain to my husband.
A group of Japanese businessmen tours Shanghai, the empire's newest conquest. One of them films it in color. The film has lain hidden for 65 years. This is the first time it has been seen. After almost 6 months of war, most of eastern China is now in Japanese hands. The fighting has been fierce and brutal. As many as 20,000 Japanese soldiers have already been killed, and over 250,000 Chinese. The diary of Private Shiro Azuma.
7,000 prisoners, all in one place. I thought, how could they become prisoners without even trying to show any resistance? They looked like a bunch of homeless people with vacant expressions on their faces. It felt quite foolish to think we had been fighting to the death against these ignorant slaves.
On December the 13th, 1937, the news is announced that the Chinese capital, Nanking, has fallen. Children all over Japan are given time off school to celebrate. Journalist Shingaro Takaishi.
I am proud of our Japanese soldiers. I am positive that they will not act in a repulsive manner against civilians. There may be pictures showing inhuman acts committed by Japanese soldiers, but it is improbable that what they represent is true.
Tadanobu Korosu of the 19th Infantry Regiment in China records a different story.
5,000 prisoners were taken to the Yangtze River to be executed by machine guns. Bayonets were used to finish them off. I felt a demonic excitement as I climbed up the pile of bodies and stopped them. There were soldiers, old, young, and children. I have never felt anything like it in my life.
Government censorship in Japan prevents any mention of incidents like the rape of Nanking. For them, the war is not a conquest, but a liberation. May the 4th, 1938. Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini meet in Rome. Italy has just conquered Abyssinia, and Germany has annexed Austria. All they need now is for Japan to complete their axis of power. A new world order is forming. As Japan's imperial army struggles to conquer China's vast territory, more and more soldiers are called up to fight. The promise of a quick victory evaporates. The war becomes a bloody stalemate. Kunio Nakao writes to his friend who has just been drafted.
I pray to the gods that you don't have to go to the front. If you do, that will be the end. If you come back, it will only be as bones. Why waste all those young lives, especially a good person like you?
Enthusiasm for the war in China is starting to wane. October 1938, the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido. The wedding of Chieko Noguchi and Lieutenant Naokichi Okita. By the time Naokichi leaves for the front, his wife is pregnant.
Dear Chieko, thank you very much for loving me for so long. As I am going to take part in the great battle on which our country's fate depends, I cannot expect to come home alive. Stay calm and deal with whatever happens with the help of your parents. I hope our new baby will be delivered safe. Chieko, you must take really good care of yourself.
At home, the government has begun a campaign of national spiritual mobilization to get everyone behind the war effort. A rally for the Women's National Defense Association. They help raise money and prepare special welfare packages for the troops at the front. The whole nation is now at war. At school sports days, children now have to perform military drills. 12-year-old Kikuya Sumita.
This is the very moment that Japan needs total support from its people. We are responsible for the future of Japan, as we are the next generation. We must live our lives with strength and bright hearts.
On the 11th of February 1939, school children celebrate Empire Day outside the Emperor's Palace in Tokyo. The cult of the Emperor unifies the nation. He is seen as a living God who expects unquestioning obedience. Koshu Itebashi.
His Imperial Majesty seems to embody everything. That's why he's able to inflame passions. For Japan, this is a holy war.
Student Wakana Nishihara.
In Britain, you say, God save the king. With the help of God, the king can govern. If he does not obey God's will, the people have the right to cut him down. But in Japan, we believe you should die for the sake of the emperor. So no one can disobey an order to die for him.
War has been raging in Europe for 9 months. The Nazi blitzkrieg that began in Poland has now reached France. On the morning of the 23rd of June, 1940, Hitler tours the defeated and deserted Paris. The speed and extent of the Nazi victories in Europe convinced Japan's leaders to sign the Axis Pact with Germany and Italy. Japanese troops occupy parts of French Indochina. Japan's empire is now run as a police state. Total obedience is demanded. Any opposition is ruthlessly stamped out by the Toko, Japan's thought police. The diary of teacher Jiro Morishita.
Under censorship, we are unable to talk openly about the war. Mr. Kagawa was arrested under suspicion of being a traitor. The newspaper said that he has now agreed to change his views and philosophy. I just cannot believe it.
Britain and the United States are providing vital supplies to the Chinese forces fighting the Japanese. In Japan, this is seen as an act of aggression. Headmaster Risuke Kawamura.
As long as Britain and America support China by providing arms, this war will not stop. Japan does not want to destroy China, but simply to kick out Britain and America.
Japan has few natural resources and no oil to fuel her war machine. The Western powers have imposed economic sanctions. When Japan refuses to leave China immediately, the West cuts off the supply of oil. Yoichi Yanagida is a student from Kyoto.
Call-ups into the army have become very heavy recently. More than ever, I sense that this is the time of national emergency. Every second, we seem to be on the brink of falling into an abyss. When will that fatal moment arrive?
of September 1941. Naval intelligence in Tokyo sends a message to secret agent Yoshikawa, living in Pearl Harbor.
Strictly secret. From now on, we would like to have you make reports concerning vessels. With regard to warships and aircraft carriers, we would like to have you report on those at anchor, tied up at wharves, and in docks.
On the 7th of December 1941, Japan launches a daring strike. Planes from a massive armada surprise the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. The attack is captured on color film by American serviceman Clyde Daughtry with his own camera. For the last 60 years, the original color of this badly faded print has gone unnoticed until now. This is the first time it has been broadcast in color. For 2 hours, 350 planes pound the American ships. The Japanese pilots sink or badly damage 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, and several other smaller ships. Only 29 Japanese planes are lost. Over 2,400 Americans are killed. The news of a great victory at Pearl Harbor is announced early in the morning. The new Prime Minister, General Hideki Tojo,
the key to success lies in a faith in victory. For 2,600 years since it was founded, our empire has never known a defeat. It is time for the 100 million of us Japanese to sacrifice everything for our country's cause.
Housewife Tei Fujiwara.
I was so surprised at the news. I jumped around our garden with my baby, shouting, "Oh God, let us put faith in the army."
12-year-old Yoshitaka Kojima is at school.
We heard the footsteps of our teacher coming into the classroom. I was class leader and gave the order to stand up and bow. The first thing our teacher said was Japan started the war against America and Britain. All of us were so excited, clapping our hands with joy.
The force that attacks Pearl Harbor includes 5 mini-submarines. 4 are destroyed and 1 captured. Its commander is the first Japanese prisoner of war, Ensign Kazu Sakamaki.
My willingness to die goes without saying. Becoming a prisoner is inexcusable, even when we are unarmed. To bite with teeth and to fight to the last is the Japanese spirit.
With Japan's plan for Asian conquest now underway, the British colony of Hong Kong is vulnerable to attack. The headquarters of the Royal Navy's China Station Fleet, it is a symbol of Western domination over Asia. Chief of Operations, 25th Japanese Army, Colonel Masanobu Tsuchi.
Japan's next great mission is to bring the blessing of freedom to the natives of South Asia. To these people, the Westerners are mere armed robbers, while we Japanese are their brothers. So we must beat them into submission.
Japanese forces capture Hong Kong on Christmas Day, 1941. There are also invasions of the Philippines, Burma, and British Malaya. The greatest prize of all lies at the tip of the Malayan Peninsula, Singapore, the bastion of the British Empire in the Far East. Colonel Masanobu Tsuchi to the invading troops.
When you encounter the enemy, regard yourself as an avenger, face to face at last with your father's murderer. Here before you is the man whose death will lighten your heart of its brooding anger. The present war is a struggle between races. We must achieve our just demands with no thought of mercy to Europeans.
The enemy forces at the fort of Singapore was forced to surrender to the Japanese forces in Malaya at 7:50 p.m.
With the capture of Singapore, Japan inflicts a humiliating defeat on the British Empire. The Japanese army overwhelms a British force twice its size. More than 100,000 British and Empire soldiers surrender.
Singapore has fallen. Singapore has fallen.
February the 19th, 1942. In another daring strike, the same force that hit Pearl Harbor surprises the Royal Australian Navy at Darwin. Eight ships are sunk and over 240 people killed. The Japanese have also begun an invasion of the Dutch East Indies. Their dream of imperial conquest is almost complete. Six weeks later, after steaming 4,000 miles across the Indian Ocean, the same fleet also surprises the Royal Navy at Colombo in Ceylon. 500 British seamen are killed. Japan's new empire now spans more than a fifth of the globe, including Asia's vital oil fields. The Diary of Sei Ito.
When I heard the military song, "We Never Stop Advancing," my heart was pounding with excitement. I rejoiced with the victory. For we Japanese to be accepted as a first-class nation, we have no option but to fight against the first-class Westerners.
The High Command in Tokyo is convinced that the remains of the US Pacific Fleet can be destroyed in one big decisive battle. The place they choose is the small Pacific island of Midway. On the 4th of June, Japanese planes attack. Combined Fleet Commander Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto.
In the first year of war with America and Britain, I will run wild and win victory upon victory. But then, if the war continues after that, I have no expectation of success.
The Americans have broken the Japanese naval codes. This time it is the Japanese who are surprised when US planes ambush their fleet. 4 of Japan's aircraft carriers are sunk and more than 300 aircraft are destroyed. But Radio Tokyo announces another great victory.
Our attack has punished our arrogant enemies, America and Britain. They are now terrified of us. We should all celebrate this great victory.
The truth of the defeated Midway is hidden from the Japanese people. The real casualty figures are withheld. For the High Command in Tokyo, it is a military disaster. Less than 2 years after Pearl Harbor, Japan's new empire is under attack on all fronts. The government in Tokyo continues to hide the truth from the Japanese people. The Japanese-held island of Peleliu in the Western Pacific. The Allied advance is less than 2,000 miles from Japan. The Japanese have now been at war for over 7 years and are fighting the combined forces of China, the British Empire, and the United States. With the homeland in danger of invasion, the Japanese High Command turns to a desperate new tactic. On the 25th of November 1944, a lone Japanese bomber closes in on the USS Essex. Its pilot is part of a new force, the Special Attack Corps, Kamikaze. Japan's empire, that once extended over vast areas of the Pacific and Asia, is now shrinking fast. On the 1st of April 1945, the island of Okinawa is bombarded by the Americans. It is the first piece of Japanese soil to be attacked. To defend the island, the Japanese High Command has devised another new tactic. Its forces have moved inland, hidden away in caves and bunkers. The Japanese are under siege. US submarines roam at will, picking off Japan's merchant fleet one by one. With almost no food supplies getting through, the Japanese people are beginning to starve. Michio Komatsu.
Despite government censorship, everyone is aware that American submarines are winning this war. We have hardly any ships left by now. Winston Churchill says that we will have to survive by eating sand. Only now do we realize what a formidable enemy we are fighting.
July 1945. A villa in a suburb of Berlin. The Allied leaders meet to discuss how to end the war in the Pacific. They offer the Japanese a choice: unconditional surrender or utter destruction. "11 days later, with no answer from the Japanese, the Americans drop atom bombs on Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. 10-year-old Makoto Nagai.
There was a terrific rush of wind and a noise like thunder. The biggest thing that ever was, ugly and beautiful. It was like a pillar of fire. I thought an airplane had crashed into the sun.
On the day before the bomb, Dr. Takashi Nagai said goodbye to his wife and went to work as usual.
3 days later, I managed to return home. I found her at once, a black lump in the remains of the kitchen. Just her pelvis and other bones, scorched by the fire. She was still warm. I picked up my wife and put her in a bucket, and I carried her to the cemetery.
Over 200,000 people have been killed instantly. Many thousands more will die in the months and years to come. 16-year-old Ichiro Hitano writes in his diary,
"Was the army completely unaware the enemy had a weapon like this? It was stupid to hope that we could possibly win this war with bamboo spears. Our will to fight is melting away."
"6 days after the bombing of Nagasaki, there is a special announcement on the radio. Japan's divine ruler, Emperor Hirohito, will speak to his people.
To our good and loyal subjects, after pondering deeply, we have decided to effect a settlement by resorting to an extraordinary measure.
For the first time, the Japanese people hear the voice of their living God. Without once mentioning the word surrender, he announces the end of the war.
If we continue to fight, it would not only result in the ultimate obliteration of the Japanese nation, but it would also lead to the total extinction of human civilization. So we have decided to pave the way for a grand peace by enduring the unendurable.
Hiroko Nakamoto.
After we had listened to the emperor, no one spoke about the ending of the war. Everyone is heartbroken, worn out. Yes, there is relief in knowing we would have no more bombs. But what was left for us? Families without homes, children without parents. What would happen to our beloved country? Conquered now by white men from the West.
Following the emperor's broadcast, orders are sent throughout the empire for Japanese forces to lay down their arms and surrender. Shintaro Uno is in the 41st Infantry Regiment.
I never dreamt the emperor would give up so easily. Officers like me didn't believe Japan could lose. I was ordered to burn the regimental colors. I did it with tears streaming down my face. I only hope the victors will deal with us in a gentlemanly manner.
Housewife Yu Aihara is worried about her husband.
At the news of the surrender, all the energy drained out of my body. Then the radio news continued, and I heard that soldiers abroad would be disarmed and repatriated to Japan. I felt so relieved, and I prayed all night through. God, please stop my husband committing suicide.
It will be 3 years before Yu Aihara receives any news of her husband. He had been killed on August the 10th, just 5 days before the surrender. All over Asia, prisoner of war camps are being liberated by the Allies. Over 130,000 British and Empire troops captured in Malaya, Singapore, and Burma have been forced to work in appalling conditions by their Japanese captors. At Sugi Air Base, outside Tokyo, headquarters of one of the Imperial Navy's kamikaze squadrons. The pilots have fled, leaving a corps of boys to prepare the base for the arrival of the first American invaders. Journalist Masuo Kato.
There were rumors that armed members of the Kamikaze Corps were hiding in the nearby hills, ready to strike. The people had been suddenly told to withdraw from a fight to the death, and their reaction was still impossible to predict.
For the first time in their history, the Japanese are faced with the reality of defeat. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a plane arrives. It is carrying Japan's new ruler, General Douglas MacArthur. Masuo Kato is waiting on the tarmac.
The Supreme Commander paused to glance casually around the sunlit airfield as he savored the moment, very much like a great actor making a carefully planned entrance. Now that the Westerners have arrived, how long will they stay?
As General MacArthur leaves for Yokohama en route to Tokyo, 30,000 Japanese soldiers are ordered to line the route. They are told to turn their backs in deference to their new overlord. 16-year-old Ichiro Hatano is waiting in Tokyo.
The police are giving orders about the Americans. Avoid personal contact as much as possible. If an American starts a conversation, answer him calmly. Women should dress modestly and go out alone as little as possible. Being occupied is more frightening than being bombed.
Three days later, on the 2nd of September 1945, preparations are underway for the official surrender. The responsibility for signing falls to Japan's Foreign Minister, Mamoru Shigemitsu.
Japan's leaders have tried to avoid taking responsibility for the surrender. So it is my duty to carry through this last decisive act. I was surrounded by enemy onlookers. Then General MacArthur entered.
It is my earnest hope, and indeed the hope of all mankind, that from this solemn occasion, a better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past.
MacArthur declared the war was over and requested us to sign the surrender. It comes hard to us Japanese to use the word surrender. The military thinks it should be referred to as a ceasefire. But whatever you call it, Japan's rebirth will depend on her realization that she has surrendered as a result of defeat.
Japan's holy war is finally over. Now the Japanese will have to endure occupation. October 1945. The British cruiser HMS Swiftsure arrives in Nagasaki. It is now more than 6 weeks since Japan officially surrendered. Allied troops are moving into all the major cities. Schoolboy Nawakata Sasaki.
The word came. They're on their way. What would they be like? They came down the road towards us. They're coming in jeeps and trucks. We had images of glaring demons with horns sprouting from their heads. We peeped out to try and catch a glimpse of them. We were disappointed. No horns at all. Friends who had bumped into them on the streets brought back chocolates. They're good people, they said. But I told them that couldn't be true. They must be lying.
With the collapse of the empire, more than 6 million soldiers and civilians are returning home. Kunimitsu Iida has just arrived from Okinawa.
It took 3 days for us all to get ashore.
It was the first time in 8 years I had been home. Then they spread us all over on our heads and up our sleeves. We were so hungry. The clothes that we had carried were soon exchanged for food. All of us were dead tired, and we had no strength to even talk to each other.
Kimie Sugino.
If only my husband would come back alive, I wouldn't care what state he was in. I just prayed that he would come back for the children and for me. As I waited, I received an official report. He had died in the Philippines. I cried and cried. When my tears had dried up, I made up my mind to be a father for my 3 children.
For those returning to Japan, the scars of war are everywhere. In Nagasaki and Hiroshima, many survivors of the atom bombs face a lingering death from radiation sickness. Dr. Michihiko Hachiya.
Patients have come like an avalanche. The majority are badly burned. All are critically ill. People who appeared to be recovering have developed new symptoms. So many patients are now dying without our understanding why. We are all in despair.
14-year-old Senji Yamaguchi.
A fierce pain jolted my body as the nurses peeled off the bandages. "Please kill me," I cried. There was also a young girl in the hospital who, like me, had burns on her face. She would have been a beautiful woman if not for those scars. The night before her discharge, she hanged herself. I refused to let her death dishearten me. I vowed to go back to school, no matter how many people laughed at my scars.
Over the next 50 years, more than 100,000 people will die from the after effects of the radiation. By the end of 1945, the Japanese people are facing a bleak future. The rice harvest has failed. Inflation is rampant. The black market is rife. Everywhere, food queues stretch through the ruins. 16-year-old Yoshitaka Kojima.
Look at the people of defeated Japan. Wooden clogs on their feet. The Yanks will laugh because we are in such a poor state. People without jobs are everywhere. Some have even starved to death. Women out to find food are attacked and raped or even killed. I think we are going to have a lot more hardship in the future.
The Allies enforce a range of sweeping reforms in an attempt to eradicate all traces of Japan's militaristic past. In schools, the old textbooks are destroyed, and children are taught the benefits of individual freedom and pacifism. There is a new, more democratic constitution. women are given the vote for the first time. In an effort to rebuild a nation shattered by war, everyone is put to work. On the 3rd of May, 1946, Japan's leaders are put on trial for war crimes. They are accused of waging aggressive war and committing numerous murders. Student Takashi Asai.
The fearful darkness is passing. Those of us who believe in freedom can hardly find a way to express our joy. The most important thing for our country is to destroy the fanatical militarists. The punishment for war criminals must be death.
By the time the war crimes trials end in 1951, almost 4,500 Japanese will be convicted, of whom nearly 1,000 will be executed. The one key person missing from the trials is Japan's divine ruler. When there are widespread calls in the West to prosecute the emperor himself, there is a flood of letters to the head of the occupying powers.
To the Honorable General MacArthur, in our country, the Emperor is above God. If something should happen to His Majesty, we would lose our purpose in life.
The Emperor made the country go to war with more power and authority than Hitler. If this man is allowed to escape punishment, there will be no justice.
If it ever happens that His Majesty is brought to trial, many Japanese would hold a tremendous hatred toward all Americans. I beg you with this petition, written in my blood.
With a new Cold War looming, the Americans prefer not to bring the emperor to trial. Instead, he is sent on a series of carefully orchestrated tours of his devastated nation. On the 7th of December 1947, he arrives in Hiroshima. It is hoped that the emperor will remain a powerful symbol of continuity with the past. Student Konokichi Sumiyoshi.
We cannot deny that we had high hopes for the old Japan. But the fact is that the militarists totally ignored reality. Japan has closed itself off and been fearful of the outside world. We must create a new nation from the ashes of the old.
After 8 years of fighting, during which Japan has lost 2.5 million dead and killed up to 15 million overseas, the legacy of Japan's war will be long and painful.